안녕하세요. Riding on the Korean wave. Welcome to a brand new week on the Culture Wave. I'm Tongsinsa in Seoul. Explore with us Korea's culture from all aspects and stay up to date with K-entertainment, K-trends, K-diplomacy, K-everything. And as it is Monday, we'll do all of that together with our Monday co-host Walter Lee. Hello, Walter.
Hello, Soa, and happy Monday, everyone, to our viewers at home. My name is Walter Lee, of course, here to give you your daily dose of KN's news.
Walter, do you remember year 1995? What do you remember when you think of that year?
That's so specific. 1995, I was young. I remember around that time, one of my favorite movies, Jumanji, came out with Robin Williams, and also Oasis's Wonderwall also came out that time, so that's what I remember.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned these Western cultures here, Western movie and Western band, because back then you and I were abroad in Australia and Germany, and K-culture wasn't really a thing back then in the West.
Yes.
But actually, the reason why I mentioned this specific year, 1995, is because it was a significant year for K-contents, K-pop, and everything we call the Korean wave today.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that in our Culture Issues segment later on.
I can't wait.
But first, we're going to go back to the present and talk about the latest in K-entertainment news.
Yes.
So, Walter, we're going to start off with Blackpink's Jennie. We just earlier talked about her latest music video, Soul City, but now we're going to talk about Like Jennie, because that's being a hit again and doing really great consistently on YouTube, right?
Right, so let's bring it back to the year 2025. Jennie's music video, Like Jennie, from her first full solo album called Ruby, released on March 7th, officially surpassed 100 million views on YouTube last Friday, making it the first K-pop music video of 2025 to hit that milestone. Now, this marks Jennie's second music video to cross the 100 million mark, following Mantra off the album Ruby. She also holds the record as the first female K-pop artist to reach 1 billion views on a single music video with Solo, achieving that feat in February of last year. Now, also on top of that, Like Jennie made Jennie the first female soloist this year to top both the Melon Top 100 and also daily charts here in South Korea.
I think Jennie will hardly keep track of all of these achievements.
Yes.
But I just checked this Monday. Already Like Jennie was past 103 million. So maybe we'll see that one also reach 1 billion one day.
One day.
Now, moving on to some news of a K-pop concert that we reported on before on the Culture Wave. But it looks like there might be a cancellation. Which one are we talking about?
That's very true. So yes, K-pop boy group EPEX were scheduled to hold a concert in Pujao, but EPEX agency C9 Entertainment announced on its official social media that the concert originally scheduled to take place in Pujao on May 31st has been postponed due to what they've called local circumstances. Now, the 8-member boy group, composed entirely of Korean members, had planned to hold their solo concert, Youth Scarcity, in Pujao on May 31st. As I said before, the concert had drawn much attention as it would have been or marked the first K-pop group concert in China for about 9 years since the Chinese government unofficially imposed a Hallyu ban. Now, according to sources, C9 Entertainment is in talks with selecting a new date and venue for the concert, and have said that they will share the details to the fans and obviously to people as soon as possible. Now, China have been enforcing this Hallyu ban, an official retaliatory measure limiting Korean music, dramas and films since around 2016 in response to South Korea's deployment of the US THAAD, or Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile Defense System.
Well, we were kind of expecting that there will be an increase in bilateral cultural exchanges between Korea and China, especially on the back of this concert, but it looks like we will have to watch over the situation. So in case they do hold the concert, please update us on that as well, Walter. But last but not least, let's talk about SHINee's back.
SHINee's back, of course. Now, starting May 18th to May 22nd at 8 p.m. Korea time, SHINee will kick off SHINee Week, a special event marking the 17th anniversary of their debut by streaming replays of their first through 5th solo concerts of their official YouTube channel. They have done 6 actual concerts, world concerts, but they're only going to do 5 on their YouTube channel. The band will also hold 3 concerts this month titled Shiny World 7 Tour. Every stage shines around you, held from May 23rd to May 25th at the KSPO Dome in Seoul's Olympic Park, which will be followed by the release of a new single on May 25th. Now, the single will consist of 2 tracks, including the title song, and will be released on major music platforms at midnight, May 25th. It will showcase Shiny's latest music and performances and is timed for the anniversary of their debut.
Well, definitely a week that Shiny fans will look forward to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for those updates, Walter.
No worries.
And now let's move over to our AI anchor, Adi, who has some interesting culture-related news at hand. Adi?
Hello and welcome to your AI guide to the latest cultural updates from Korea. Here's our top story. Korea's performance and exhibition services exports reached $754 million last year, with imports at $419 million, posting a surplus for the 3rd consecutive year. While exports to Asia remain dominant, K-pop performances and other Korean exhibition exports have significantly grown in North America and Europe. The Korea Culture and Tourism Institute noted that the surplus was achieved despite most other service sectors experiencing trade deficits. A replica of the Joseon Tongsinsa ship, once a symbol of Korea-Japan exchange, has arrived in Osaka. According to the National Research Institute of Maritime Heritage, this is the first time in 261 years that a Joseon Tongsinsa ship has made the journey to Osaka since its 11th mission in 1764. The term Tongsinsa refers to the official diplomatic envoys sent by the Joseon government to Japan from the 1600s to the 1800s to promote cultural exchanges. The symbolic reenactment comes as part of the two-nation celebrations marking the 60th anniversary of their normalized diplomatic relations. A one-of-a-kind event took over Seoul's Pampo-Hangang River Park on Sunday. The annual Space Out competition, where doing absolutely nothing earns you the top prize. This year, 126 participants across 80 teams joined the event in colorful flair, with some dressed as clowns and llamas while others opted for traditional hanbok. Launched in 2016, the competition aims to challenge the modern obsession with constant productivity by celebrating stillness and mental rest. Contestants must sit in silence and remain motionless for 90 minutes, with winners determined by heart rate stability and audience votes. This year's champions, punk band Pogo Attack, said the contest offered them a rare break from their packed daily schedules. That's all from me. Stay tuned to the Culture Wave.
Up next, as our Adi earlier reported, a Joseon Tongsinsa replica has made its way to Osaka, very symbolic with this year marking 60 years since the normalization of diplomatic ties between Korea and Japan. Now, in this next report, our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin takes us to an exhibition that depicts the Joseon Tongsinsa missions. Take a look at this past art of diplomacy.
These paintings offer a glimpse into the original Joseon Tongsinsa missions, depicting the formal procession and the ships that carried the envoys across the sea to Japan. For those curious about how these centuries-old diplomatic journeys help bridge the two countries, you can step back in time here. So this exhibition, titled Bonds of the Heart, Waves of Resonance, currently on here at the Seoul Museum of History, is actually the largest ever exhibition held on the Joseon Tongsinsa. And it is also this museum's biggest exhibition since its opening in 2002. More than 100 artifacts from both Korea and Japan are on display, some of them listed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register.
The Tongsinsa missions were launched after the Indian War, at a time when Japan was still viewed as a sworn enemy. But Joseon decided to restore diplomatic ties for the peace and stability of its people. Those efforts to rebuild trust is what we focused on.
The three-part exhibition traces the history of the 12 Tongsinsa missions from the 17th to 19th centuries, from their dispatch and sea voyage to cultural exchanges in Japan and their return home.
As the missions continued, mutual understanding grew, and many of the artifacts on display, such as the handwritten exchanges and literary works by the envoys, reflect that deepening relationship.
That human connection is captured in this painting, collected by the late Korean historian Shin Gi-soo. Shin donated over 100 artifacts related to the Joseon Tongsinsa to the Osaka Museum of History.
This painting shows an everyday interaction. An envoy on horseback is greeted by a Japanese citizen, almost like an autograph signing. While we have many records of formal diplomacy, there's little that shows how ordinary people connected with the envoys.
The first part of Bonds of the Heart, Waves of Resonance will close on May 25th. The second and final phase will open on May 27th with new artifacts until June 29th. 송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Did you know that 1995, or 30 years ago, was a turning point for Korean pop culture? It's said that the current Korean wave, or Hallyu, has its roots in that year. Let's find out why in today's Culture Issue segment. And for that, we're joined by culture critic Professor Ji Hae-won at Kyunghee University. Welcome back, Professor Ji.
Welcome, Professor.
Hello, good afternoon.
So let's travel back in time to year 1995. So why was this year important in terms of K-pop culture, K-contents, and so forth, which is receiving so much love these days?
Right, the 1990s marked a turning point for the Korean pop culture industry in many ways, but in particular, 1995 was very important because it was the year that one of the leading K-pop agencies, SM Entertainment, began its business in earnest, which changed the landscape of the Korean pop music industry. And it was also the year that CJ Entertainment, now CJ E&M, launched their it's a film business. So not only that, two of the Korean longest running musicals, The Last Empress and Love in the Rain, premiered in that year as well. Moreover, the famous TV series Sandglass, 모래시계, also broadcast on SBS in 1995. So yeah, we can say that 1995 truly the year that when the foundation for the full-scale expansion and growth of the Korean cultural industry was laid.
Right. We did specifically talk about the 30th anniversary of these K-musicals,
Right.
but now it looks like there were really some other milestones made in that year, so very impressive.
Very impressive indeed, and it's actually quite interesting to hear that both SM and CJ E&M both started around 1995, with SM with K-pop and CJ ENM with K-content, whether it be fate or whether it just be a very well coincidence.
Right.
But how have they revolutionized Korea's culture history?
SM Entertainment actually opened an era of K-pop by introducing Korea's first professional artist and entertainment management system. So after producer Lee Soo-man introduced Yoo Young-jin and Hyun Jin-young in the early 1990s, and SM Entertainment was established in 1995 and has grown into the leading entertainment agency representing the era of K-pop idols by successfully producing H.O.T., SES, Shinhwa, and BoA. And CJ, 제일제당, led the entry of the large corporations into the cultural industry by developing the Korean film industry in the mid to late 1990s, as it began its business through the CJ Entertainment and also the movie theater franchise CGV. So I remember it launched the CJ movie theater franchise in 1997 or 8. So it was around that year. So it later expanded its business to include the theatrical works. And in 2011, it merged into CJ ENM with its media department. So, and CJ became the Korea's largest media and entertainment corporation.
Wow, and it doesn't end there. In 1995, also, Korea's cable TV started in that year. And also riding on that trend, Arirang TV was also launched a couple of years later in 1997.
Right.
So, Professor Ji, how did this change affect the media or content industry here in Korea?
Right, you're right. The cable television was launched in Korea in 1995 as well, so which was actually the real historical moment in the media industry. Since then, the audience's channel choices have increased dramatically, and there has been a major change as the audiences could watch the genres and programs with what they want 24/7. So through the specialized stations like CJ's Mnet or KMTV, or channels specializing in movies or TV dramas. So although it was still limited compared to the current OTTs, but however, the launch of cable TV has led the audience's segmentation according to their preferences. Also, the emergence of specialized channels of like music or dramas, movies, and sports, and etc., has greatly expanded the distribution structure of popular culture contents as well, and in particular has promoted the growth of the music video market. So including the famous large-scale music videos of 조성모 or Kim Bum-soo, like To Heaven or 보고 싶다, those kind of things. So through the cable TVs, and the American or British TV series like Friends or Sex and the City became very, very popular as well.
Well, it's very interesting to look at this timeline because nowadays the consumption of contents, many people watch OTT platforms.
Right.
And it looks like 30 years ago it was when cable TV started, and before that it was the era of just regular public broadcasting stations. Right. But now let's move over to Hongdae, which is a very famous area here in Korea, also for many tourists who travel to Seoul. It's not only a famous art district in Seoul, but the indie music scene began also to take roots at Hongdae clubs around 1995 again. So how do you see these scenes having added to the diversity to Korean music?
So yeah, you're right. The 1990s was an important period, not only the idols or the hip hop, but also for the indie scene. It was the time when the young generation, known as Generation X, like me, and enjoyed the various culture, and the particular cultural trend was formed around Hongik University and Apgujeongdong. So in the mid-1990s, live clubs increased around Hongdae, and some of the bands and musicians were gained popularity from Hongdae, including Yoon Do-hyun, Crying Nut, 자우림, 삐삐 Band, and No Brain. So the music industry became really diverse and true prosperous in 1990s. particularly in 1995, actually.
So, Professor Ji, were you also active around the Hongdae area?
Of course. Of course, I was there.
Enjoyed the scene there?
Yes.
Great.
And obviously, unlike today, I mean, online communities are very, very big. But back then, they was fairly quite new, and but they were still thriving. Of course, online communities were starting to take off around then. What was the impact like, and were those clubs the foundation of the fandom, that the community culture that we see these days?
The driving force behind the development of popular culture in the 1990s was not only the launch of the cable TV or emergence of large entertainment companies. Another major reason actually was the formation of active fandom, the fan culture, as the consumers of a popular culture began to actively communicate through online communities like PC Tongsin, Cheollian, Hitel, and Naonuri before the internet era. So online communities led the beginning of the fan culture, and especially the music industry, so grew rapidly around the solid fandom. So as the internet era began in earnest in the 2000s, these fan activities spread out not only domestically but also overseas, so which actually growing the Korean wave. So in the late 90s to in the early 2000s.
And anything else notable from, like, let's say, a cultural aspect about, like, 1995 specifically?
Yeah, in the mid-1990s, actually the youth population, like 19 to 34 years old, was approximately 13.77 million, the highest ever in Korea, as the baby boomer became parents and their children, Generation X, was actually economically and culturally more comfortable than before. So there was a solid group of people, the group of audiences that enjoyed culture and was a clear foundation for the development of Korean culture. So these consumers trend that actually stood out in the 1990s were also related to the increase in family restaurants like TGIF or Benny Guns or the multiplex movie theaters like a CGV or Megabox, and the coffee franchises as well, like a Starbucks. So it happened actually in late 1990s.
I see. And I think it was kind of unfortunate that a few years later, IMF, the situation broke out, we got an economic downturn in the country, not only in Korea, of course, but then again, maybe it was also lucky that we could start off with these, K-culture big milestones just before that in 1995.
Exactly.
But now, Professor Ji, there's been a resurgence in the interest in the 1990s culture these days when it comes to K-dramas, and also K-pop is seeing some elements from the past these days. There's also remixes from these days, like fourth generation idol groups that are making remixes from songs from the 1990s. So why do you think we are seeing this trend?
So the cold retro trend has been prominent in various sectors, including K-popular culture since the 2010s, can be understood as a kind of nostalgia marketing for the 30 to 50s, the main consumer group. And the recall and reinterpretation of 90s cultural service serves as an opportunity for the younger generations, to give them the opportunity to experience the culture of the parents, their parents' generation in a new way, and for the Middle Ages group to remind of their youth and the good old days. So that these are the kind of trend for the popular culture and the music and the TV dramas as well. For instance, this series of Reply 1997, 1994, 1988 led the retro craze by conveying the emotions of 80s or the 90s to the various generations with the newly arranged Korean music from the 90s. So I can say that 1990, especially in 1995, the time of culture and emotional explosion was a clear turning point for the Korean society and the Korean pop culture as well. And it's also flexibly connected to the 2020s, currently culture and the younger generation as well.
Right. Maybe we could have a new series, 응답하라 1995 or Reply 1995,
Right,
because
course.
so much happened in that year.
Of course.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Ji, for today's interesting topic, and looking forward to next time.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Walter, as always. We're going to see you back here tomorrow.
See you very soon.
Thank you for spending the past half an hour with us on the Culture Wave. Please join us again tomorrow on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Korea time, and maybe one day here in Korea.